Listen to the Vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. I'm very happy to welcome Laurie Parente here. And she is an intuitive guide, an angel medium, and an energy healer. I'm going to get to know her and have a great conversation. So, Laurie, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
So as I work intuitively and I work as a medium, as my practice has evolved, it started off just bringing through messages for people, just, like what we would call traditional mediumship. And then what I started to realize is that everyone has the ability to tap into their loved ones, their guides, their team in spirit. And so I started working more with clients to help them facilitate those relationships, because I believe that once we understand we're more than our physical body and our conditioning and everything that's going on around us, life gets a little bit more magical because we know that we're loved and we're supported and that we're not alone on this journey, and that we chose to come here with this big team to support us.
I hear people often say, like, we have a red bird that shows up at the back window, and people tell me that that's a loved one coming by to just say hi. Is there any truth to that?
Absolutely. They're always sending us signs. I think the big thing is when you notice the bird, to tune into what were you just thinking about? What were you just noticing? What were you feeling? Because they'll come to you not only to say we're here, but we know what you're going through. We know what you're thinking about. We know what you're struggling with. So perhaps you were just thinking about a struggle and then the red bird comes. And then we can tap into that bird for more messages. So I think we're used to, I saw a feather or I saw a bird, but there's more to it than just seeing them. It's about noticing and tapping into the energy and getting messages.
I might have to pay more attention to that. As say every once in a while, this one red bird always shows back up. And my wife is an empath, and she has mentioned that. She says, I believe that's your brother coming by to say hi. And it's comforting. And I think a lot of people need that comfort, especially when you grieve like my mom and I have. My brother was only 22 when we lost him, and that was 24 years ago. And I didn't get the chance to really feel those feelings because I pushed it down with alcohol and drugs, and to this day I still struggle. Is there a way that I can get past that?
So first of all, I think in our society we do grief really badly. The person passes away, people are there for a little moment and they go back on with their life, and then we struggle with, how come I'm not back to normal? Why am I not who I was before? And the big truth is you're not going to be who you were before, and that we need to process all of the feelings that are coming along, and yet society doesn't really support that. So you're right, we go into the numbing, we push it down, we do anything we can not to feel it, and at some point I believe it gets so loud that we have to feel it. It comes and it almost is hitting us over the head with a frying pan saying, you need to feel this. And I don't believe we get over it. I believe it just becomes part of who we are and how we function in the world. And one thing that I believe is so possible is that we can connect with our loved ones. You have that ability to connect with your brother, and then you have that ability to continue the relationship. Like, we think once someone's passed, that relationship is over, we're not going to see them again, whatever our beliefs are. But we can actually tap into them and continue our relationship, kind of clean up our human relationship, because there's always these leftover emotions and this leftover anger. And perhaps your brother was somebody who was doing something that, it kind of made you angry how he passed. Then we deal with all of that stuff. And then we have this opportunity to open ourselves up to this beautiful soul-to-soul connection, which is so supportive and so loving, and continue our relationships in a new and different way.
So I have a question that has been weighing on me for a while. When someone takes their own life, are they going to automatically go to hell? Or is there still that chance that they're going to heaven? Or how do we get that answer?
So that's always, when someone completes suicide, which really to me is there's a suicide attempts, and then there's sometime when they will complete. It's a mental illness. It's like that last act of a mental illness, or it's that last act of desperation. And I believe in a loving universe, a loving mother, father, God, whatever you think of. I don't believe in hell. I believe that we will cross over to the other side and we will be shown our choices and our interactions and our behaviors, and then we will heal. So whether our life comes to a natural end or it's something that we have done to end our life, I believe that it's just experience and that we heal through that experience. And then the problem sometimes comes in, or the challenge is the people that are left behind who live with the stigma of, and they live with friends that all of a sudden don't want to be around them, or maybe in a situation where, well, how did your brother die? And you don't want to talk about it because feel like you're going to be judged. So it's working through all of those emotions that you're left with after the person has passed.
The biggest emotion for me is guilt.
So you believe you could have done something differently. You believe kind of, if I had done this, then this would have happened. And what's happening when we have that guilt is our energy is in the past. And the hard truth is it happened because it happened and we can't change it. So it's about bringing that energy back. And it wasn't our choice. The thing with suicide is we often are punished for somebody else's choice, or we punish ourselves for somebody else's choice. And what we're looking at is bringing that energy back into the present. We can't change it, but we can change our perspective on it, and we can change the emotions that we're holding around it.
How long have you been doing this?
So I have always been intuitive. I've always been a medium. I stepped more into it about 10, 12 years ago. And leading up to that, I was always in grief work as well. So there's a lot of background that kind of has come together in my practice, helping people with grief and helping people connect to their loved ones. About 12 years ago, I had an experience where I connected with my mom and my nana in spirit, but I saw us as orbs. And it really changed the way that I perceive life and I perceive death. And it changed the way that I understand how we can communicate. So we've got people on this life, as yourself, who've been carrying this for decades. And there are ways to release it and step into a new relationship with your brother.
And you actually talk with angels, or you just see them? How's that work?
Both. So I do see them, and most people do. People will see orbs in pictures, or they will see shadows in a mirror, or they will just have a sensation of light. We all are capable of connecting with angels. It's just whether or not we're noticing. So I do see angels, and I also connect with them internally. The shamanic practice of going within to find everything.
I've been fascinated with that kind of thing. I've heard of people that they work with angels. What actually happens? I mean, do you see this angelic presence show up, or how? I'm just curious.
So the work that I do is I spend a time within in something I teach called Soul Sanctuary. So we go into a meditative journey, and as soon as we go in and we learn how to connect, it depends on people's senses. They will either see angels around them when you're in this meditative journey, or they'll feel them, or just have this sense that they are there, and just tapping into that angelic frequency. And I'm sure you've been in situations where you've walked into a place and someone is just holding so much peace and calm, and you just want to go talk to them. And that is what the angelic frequencies feel like.
And you help people with meditation, and that's for healing. Is that physically healing or emotionally healing, or both?
So physically, mentally, and emotionally, I believe are all tied together. I think there are so many people who will say, I can't meditate. I've tried. I've tried to sit there and my brain's going crazy and there's no way I'm not a meditator. And the truth is, when you're meditating and you notice your thinking and you notice your mind going and you bring yourself back to your breath, that moment is meditation. That is your success in meditation. And then anyone can be someone who meditates and who brings that peace and that calm and that connection into their life.
I went to the doctor about my depression and anxiety, PTSD, and the same old story is they want to throw drugs at you, and they either don't work or they make you feel worse than you did before you start taking them. Now,
Right.
are you familiar with Carolyn Corey?
No.
Okay, she's been on shows like Ancient Aliens, and she goes around doing different events. And I had her on my show, and she actually encouraged me to get into meditation, and I did. And I have to stress this, I'm not a doctor. You go talk to your doctor before you go do anything, but I was able to wean myself off of all those drugs. And I meditate before, say, when we took our trip to New York, I got on the subway for the first time. I did my meditation before I got on there and was able to handle it. Otherwise, I'd have been a wreck.
Right. Right. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there are cases absolutely where medication will help people, and we want to stress that again. Everyone should go through those channels with their doctors. I just think we are moving from a time where we're looking at authority outside of ourselves, people telling us what we need to do to fix us, to heal us, to moving within and having that discernment of what do I need in this moment, what will work for me, and how can I facilitate the understanding that I'm on some level causing this anxiety so I can absolutely heal it in this moment.
It's crazy when I get into deep meditation and then I'll all of a sudden think of something else. And it's almost as if I wasn't there and I came back real fast. Does that make sense?
So you're deep in meditation and then you have a thought and it kind of feels like it's outside of you somewhere.
Something that, like I am meditating on something and I'm almost like I'm not here. I'm somewhere else. And then another thought will pop into my head for whatever reason. And then it's almost like I come to.
Right. So you're just going into that altered state, right?
Right.
Where you are connected more into your soul or your spirit or whatever you want to call it than you are connected into your physical life. And when you are in that deep space and you feel that deep calm and that peace, are you able to bring it back with you into your physical life? Or do you find as soon as you come back, everything's wonky again?
I feel say like I've been depressed or something, and I'm focusing on healing myself and becoming happy again, and I'm whatever it is that I'm focusing on at that moment, it's almost I'm taken away somewhere else.
That's wonderful. So it's like with the intention of what you're working on, you're able to tap into that frequency because everything is frequency, and you will notice like the frequency of peace feels different than the frequency of love or joy. They're different frequencies, and if we can tap into those in the meditative state and then fill our physical body with those frequencies, we bring them back with us into this moment, and then we notice that we've got them with us during the day and are able to go on the subway and be okay with it.
And to answer your question, I can bring that feeling with me once I'm out of that state, and then I feel this calmness that I've never felt before. But it's just it's crazy how you're here one moment, you're somewhere else, and then you're right back again. That's at least that's the way it feels to me.
So we are so much bigger. Our energy is so much bigger than our physical bodies. We're these energetic beings having a human experience in a human body, but we are so much bigger. So logically, it makes sense that we can almost step outside of this human body and be part of that bigger part of our energy.
Is there, I guess you'd call it a central mind or whatever, where everybody kind of goes to when they meditate?
So I think you're connecting into your higher self. You're
Mhm.
connecting or your larger being. I mean, there's so many different words to it, and we're all connecting into that quantum field where we're all connected. So I wonder if you've ever had the experience where you are working on an intention to feel more calm, and then you notice everyone else around you kind of calms down as well.
I guess I never really paid attention to it before. I'm gonna have to pay more attention to it.
Because we're connecting into that frequency, bringing it back with us, it makes sense that we're now emanating this frequency. I was just reading a story today about someone who was on an airplane, and this is something I often do, and noticed a very nervous flyer beside them and just brought in this frequency of calm into them and noticed how it started to affect the person next to them.
Oh, wow. Well, to move on to the next thing, I noticed that you help people on their spiritual path. I used to preach at one time, and I loved going to church, but I think I took my focus off of God and put it more on a person in the church, and we had a falling out. I left, and I never wanted to go back to church again. But over the last 9, 10 years, I've tried to get back on a more spiritual path, thanks to my wife. Now, you help people with that?
I think we all go through that time where we're looking at religion kind of more as a power over and a power coming from outside of us, where spirituality is within. And it's about discerning what works for us, what's right for us, what's true for us, and what aligns with our purpose of bringing light and love to every situation. So as we learn about meditation and these journeys and finding that kind of soul sanctuary and connecting with our spirit team in more tangible ways, it elevates that spiritual transformation.
I don't really believe in religion anymore. I'm more on that spiritual path, I guess you'd
Right.
say.
I think that there are so many great things about religion. I just believe somewhere along the way it became a business.
I agree. It's something that man has made up.
Right.
And you help people with their self-discovery.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that inner wisdom, that intuition that we all carry, I've never met anyone who I've said, have you ever had an intuitive hit? And even if I have to dig a little bit, they'll say, oh yeah, this one time this happened and you're right. And so that inner wisdom is all about that path of claiming, turning up those inner knowings and kind of turning down all the stuff that's coming in from outside.
And exactly what do you do when you work with someone one-on-one? So if I was to come to you, what would be step one?
So we usually start off with working with your spiritual team to see if there's any messages coming through, because that kind of softens the heart and gets you into the moment. And then a big thing is doing some releasing work, because we carry a ton of energy from our whole life and perhaps even before, and from our culture and our ancestors. So often there's a ton of energy I will find in people's energetic fields when I'm working through my guides that just needs to be released. It's stuff we don't need to carry anymore. It's just like this dense and discordant energy. So we'll start with a clearing, and then we will go into bringing in once we've done that clearing, we've opened you up to bring in more of your gifts, more of your light, more of your energy. So we'll go into more connections and opening you up to just this possibility of magic and synchronicity and connection. And it's just really fun.
Once someone has gotten to that level that they're trying to get to, how do they know?
They feel it.
They just feel it.
Right? We just know, we know within us, we know our truth, and we feel it rather than think it.
And I'm assuming that you can do this like over Zoom and the internet.
Yes, most of my sessions are over Zoom. I do have some in-person events that I do around Calgary, but most things are on Zoom. I think COVID kind of showed us how connected we are, whether or not we're in the same place in the world.
Right. What is your website?
LaurieParente.com.
And I'm assuming you do social media.
I do. I'm on Instagram at Laurie Parente. Just kept everything really simple.
I got you. I got you. Well, Laurie, thank you so much for this. I really appreciate you coming on.
You are so welcome. Really enjoyed talking with you and feeling into your energy and connecting with your grandfather, as we talked about before we got on. And I love that you've worked on your healing and been able to kind of titrate off of those drugs. I think that's a beautiful thing.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm a lot happier as being an addict. The last thing I needed was more drugs.
Right? We all are addicts in our own ways, whether it's food or being addicted to watching shows or whatever. We all have those ways that we numb ourselves.
Yeah, and being sober it's just been not only good for me, but for my children, my grandchildren, and we've grown so much closer. What do you really need that stuff for anyway?
Right? And I believe as we heal ourselves, and many people will say this, we heal 7 generations back and 7 generations forward.
I've never heard that.
Right? So as we open up to this healing and releasing, it releases it from the genetic line.
Wow. Well, again, Laurie, thank you. Thank you so
You're welcome.
much. And I also want to thank all you folks out there. If you are new to the channel, I hope you'll come back. Please hit that subscribe button. For my regulars, you guys are awesome because you make it possible for me to do this. Till the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favourite podcasts. And on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network